I had a great thought yesterday that I wanted to share. Um, it's probably not going to really connect, but I thought it was cool in my mind, but I don't know. Anyway, there it is. Um, the big news story right now, in case you haven't been following, or in case you only watch CNN, um, or mainstream media, you go into some of the obscure, news services like Uncle Joe gives you the news on YouTube. Um, there's actually, basically, if you watch some of the testimony that's being shown in some of the swing states right now in Pennsylvania, Georgia, Nevada, Arizona, Georgia. Did I say Georgia already? Wisconsin. Um, they released video footage of a table being brought into the election room when nobody was paying attention. Everybody was busy, like, oh, oh, beep, beep, and they're putting the ballots into the machine, and this is clearly a vote for Biden, and this is a vote for Trump, ugh, and as they're counting, they're doing all that, on election day, and you see that on the camera. That is what was happening, and then they bring this table in, and yeah, we just need this table because we're gonna put some donuts on this table. We need some more room for donut, and so they put the table there. All right, that's fine. Look at that table. That is a fine table. And then everybody continues doing the voting processing and all that. And so towards the end of that election day or whatever night, they shut down. Everybody thought, well, it looks like President Trump 4 more years. That is interesting. Well, that's the end of the news day. Good night, everyone. On most news stations, I think that's what they did on election day. And so they're like, all right, everybody go home because we're done with vote. We're done with the count, And so they send everybody home, and you see that on the camera footage. The majority of the people counting the ballots went home. And then there's like 4 ladies who are just sitting in their little cubicle, they're just like, well, I'm exhausted. We're done counting for tonight, And so they're just sitting there. You see that on the camera. They're just sitting there like, I best be getting home. Oh, 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 I'm stretching. Oh, I gotta get my purse. And they're getting ready to go, and they're acting like that as everybody is getting out. Oh, everybody's leaving. Guess I better leave too. Oh, and then they shut the door. Everybody's out. Everybody's going to lunch or whatever. They're taking a break from counting. And then after everybody gets out, then like these 4 ladies are like, all right, let's get to work. And then they rip open the table then, and then they bring out a bunch of ballots that are in the table. This is the latest news story. And then they just proceed to, oh, this is a Biden vote. Oh, this is a Biden vote. Oh, this is a Biden vote. It's a Biden vote. Oh, this might be no, this is a Biden vote. Yeah. And they're 100% Biden votes in this table. Imagine that. I'm sorry, I was laughing about it yesterday because it's like, it's open and shut now. You know, if I were an evil man, or maybe not even evil, you know, if I were like, I don't know, like an actual man maybe, or like a tough guy, you know, I would be really mad right now about this video. This is open and shut. This is clear that they cheated based on this video testimony here that they're showing. It's completely ridiculous. Look at Jack with his, he just poked out. That's so great. It's just completely nuts. And I've been having to listen to that for the past, we're in December now, so like the past month. I remember on election day they were claiming fraud, and then there was this idiot senator who was like, well, where's your proof? I don't see no proof. So I don't know what you're talking. If there was some proof, I mean, I don't see it. Ugh. And well, here we are. There's more than this though. There's like thousands of affidavits, thousands of eyewitness testimony. I remember on election day watching the video footage of people putting the pizza boxes over the windows to prevent people from actually watching the count process continue. You know, they removed all the Republicans out of there, and then they just started to count, you know. So the proof is now right in front of you. And regardless of where we go from here, I think it's pretty obvious what happened. I mean, if you were a math guy and you were a statistics guy, you know, you would know, and you were smart, and you go into all that. Like, it's like instantaneous with all that data. Like, it's so obvious that this is a complete, they stole it. You know, this is a stolen election. And if I were a different person, I would be very angry, but I'm not. I am, but I'm not as bad as I could be. I could be just the most ruthless monster you've ever seen. But because I have this, I can take a step back, and oh yeah, typical. So anyway, there's your proof right there. It's so obvious. But then I was thinking yesterday about how the other side continues to say that, like, where's your proof? Or that's just circumstantial evidence. Like, there was another congressman, I think from Pennsylvania or Georgia, I'm not sure. She was this dingbat. She was nuts. And she was coming up with a justification for all the anomalies in the counting and all the anomalies. All these witnesses coming before her. Just all these ladies crying and completely astounded at the complete and utter annihilation of everything our country stands for. That's what this represents. We have no country if you allow this to continue. It's the most insulting, despicable, rotten display I've ever seen. And then this dingbat comes up with a justification for every horrible thing that happened. You know, all this eyewitness testimony. You got everything. You got it open and shut. There's no argument anymore. You want proof? There it is! Look at it! But then they respond and say, they just come up with an excuse. And they don't even listen to you. And they just But see, that's actually, there's a whole other story to all of this, but that's where we are. Where's the proof? It's right in front of you. But do you choose to believe it or not? And that's where I wanted to go. That's what I was thinking about yesterday, was God. You know, how do I prove God to my cousin? How do I prove God to anybody out there? You know? And really, I don't have to. Regardless of what you want to do with this election, I don't think you have to prove anything anymore. We all know that it was stolen. And if you want to appoint this idiot to be in charge, I don't think people are going to accept it. I think we're approaching war, either inside or outside, or both. So, God, how do I prove him? I don't have to. I think he's right in front of you. And I can't come up with the logic and the philosophical. I can't. Phalabalabala. I can't. And I don't need to anyway. It doesn't matter. Because I look into the eyes of my cousin. I see the other human being in front of me. I say, wow, God made you. She just doesn't want to accept that, you know. And you don't even have to use my cousin. If she's uncomfortable, you know, me talking about her, then I'm sorry. She's a wonderful person. She's amazing. And but I'm just using her as an example. I'm just picking on her. But trying to prove God to her, that's I don't think I have to. And I think she knows that God exists, but she doesn't want to acknowledge it. She's in denial about it because of something that God did to her, or she blames God for something that happened to her in her life, and it wasn't God that did that to her. That was Satan, really. And I think if you can prove Satan, I think you can prove God. But see, I don't have to prove God. I think he's right in front of us. I think he's right there. And so what I was thinking of was I wanted to read the end of Job again, because it's so magnificent, and you just think about the depths of it, and it makes you realize how insignificant I am, and how why do I have to prove anything when you know it? You know, isn't there a verse in Romans talking about you are without excuse? You know he's here, regardless of if you're in denial or not. I know I'm not saying it right, but you can go find that verse. But I wanted to read this ending of Job. Chapter 38 of Job, verse 1. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind, and said, Who is this that darkeneth counsel by words without knowledge? See, that's my conclusion to everything. You know, I don't know anything. You know, my cousin she wants to have knowledge about everything, and she thinks she has knowledge about everything. That's something consistent with other family members in my family, and that's consistent with my friends a lot of times, is they'll claim to have knowledge about something when they have knowledge about nothing, really. And whatever subject you're talking about, they really know nothing about that, even though they claim to have knowledge about it. The bottom line is verse 2. I really don't, why should I harden my heart and think that I know something about anything when I don't? You know? Who is this that darkeneth counsel by words without knowledge? Gird up now thy loins like a man, for I will have demand of thee, and answer thou me. Where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare, if thou hast understanding. Who hath laid the measures thereof? If thou knowest, or who hath stretched the line upon it? Whereupon are the foundations thereof fastened? Or who laid the cornerstone thereof? When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy? Or who shut up the sea with doors when it brake forth, as if it had issued out of the womb? When I made the cloud the garment thereof, and thick darkness a swaddling band for it, and brake up for it my decreed place, and set bars and doors, and said, Hitherto shalt thou come, but no further, and here shall thy proud waves be stayed? Hast thou commanded the morning since thy days, and caused the dayspring to know his place, that it might take hold of the ends of the earth, that the wicked might be shaken out of it? It is turned as clay to the seal, and they stand as a garment. And from the wicked their light is withholden, and the high arm shall be broken. Hast thou entered into the springs of the sea? Or hast thou walked in the search of the depths? Megalodon. Have the gates of death been opened unto thee? Or hast thou seen the doors of the shadow of death? Hast thou perceived the breadth of the earth? Declare, if thou knowest it all. Where is the way where light dwelleth? And as for darkness, where is the place thereof? That thou shouldest take it to the bound thereof, and that thou shouldest know the paths to the house thereof? Knowest thou it, because thou wast then born? Or because the number of thy days is great? Hast thou entered into the treasures of the snow? Or hast thou seen the treasures of the hail, which I have reserved against the time of trouble, against the day of battle and war? By what way is the light parted, which scattereth the east wind upon the earth? Who hath divided a watercourse for the overflowing of waters, or a way for the lightning of thunder? To cause it to rain on the earth where no man is, on the wilderness wherein there is no man, to satisfy the desolate and waste ground, and to cause the bud of the tender herb to spring forth? Hath the rain a father, or who hath begotten the drops of dew? Out of whose womb came the ice, and the hoary, I don't know, frost of heaven? Who hath gendered it? The waters are hid as with a stone, and the face of the deep is frozen. Canst thou bind the sweet influences of Pleiades, or loose the bands of Orion? Canst thou bring forth Mazzaroth in his season, or canst thou guide Arcturus with his sons? Knowest thou the ordinances of heaven? Canst thou set the dominion thereof in the earth? Canst thou lift up thy voice to the clouds, that abundance of waters may cover thee? Canst thou send lightnings, that they may go and say unto thee, Here we are? Who hath put wisdom in the inward parts? Or who hath given understanding to the heart? Who can number the clouds in wisdom, or who can stay the bottles of heaven? When the dust groweth into hardness, and the clods cleave fast together, wilt thou hunt the prey for the lion, or fill the appetite of the young lions, when they couch in their dens and abide in the covert to lie in wait? Who provideth for the raven his food? When his young ones cry unto God, they wander for lack of meat. 39. Knowest thou the time when the wild goats of the rock bring forth? Or canst thou mark when the hinds do calve? Canst thou number the months that they fulfill? Or knowest thou the time when they bring forth? They bow themselves, they bring forth their young ones, they cast out their sorrows. Their young ones are in good liking, they grow up with corn, they go forth and return not unto them. Who hath sent out the wild ass free? Or who hath loosed the bands of the wild ass? Whose house I have made the wilderness, and the barren land his dwellings. He scorneth the multitude of the city, neither regardeth he the crying of the driver. The range of the mountains is his pasture, and he searcheth after every green thing. Will the unicorn be willing to serve thee, or abide by thy crib? Canst thou bind the unicorn with his band in the furrow? Or will he harrow the valleys after thee? Wilt thou trust him because his strength is great, or wilt thou leave thy labor to him? Wilt thou believe him, that he will bring home thy seed, and gather it into thy barn? Gavest thou the goodly wings unto the peacocks, or wings and feathers unto the ostrich, which leaveth her eggs in the earth, and warmeth them in dust, and forgetteth that the foot may crush them, or that the wild beast may break them? She is hardened against her young ones, as though they were not hers. Her labor is in vain without fear, because God hath deprived her of wisdom, neither hath he imparted to her understanding. What time she lifted up herself on high, she scorneth the horse and his rider. Hast thou given the horse strength? Hast thou clothed his neck with thunder? Canst thou make him afraid as a grasshopper? The glory of his nostrils is terrible. He paweth in the valley, and rejoiceth in his strength. He goeth on to meet the armed men. He mocketh at fear, and is not affrighted, neither turneth he back from the sword. The quiver rattleth against him, the glittering spear and the shield. He swalloweth the ground with fierceness and rage, neither believeth he that it is the sound of the trumpet. He saith among the trumpets, Ha, ha! And he smelleth the battle afar off, the thunder of the captains and the shouting. Doth the hawk fly by thy wisdom, and stretch her wings toward the south? Doth the eagle mount up at thy command, and make her nest on high? She dwelleth and abideth on the rock, upon the crag of the rock in the strong place. From thence she seeketh the prey, and her eyes behold afar off. Her young ones also suck up blood, and where the slain are, there she is. Moreover, the Lord answered Job, and said, Shall he that contendeth with the Almighty instruct him? He that reproveth God, let him answer it. Then Job answered the Lord, and said, Behold, I am vile. What shall I answer thee? I will lay mine hand upon my mouth. Once have I spoken, but I will not answer. Yea, twice, but I will proceed no further. Then answered the Lord unto Job out of the whirlwind, and said, Gird up thy loins now like a man. I will demand of thee, and declare thou unto me. Wilt thou also disannul my judgment? Wilt thou condemn me, that thou mayest be righteous? Hast thou an arm like God? Or canst thou thunder with a voice like him? Deck thyself now with majesty and excellency, and array thyself with glory and beauty. Cast abroad the rage of thy wrath, and behold every one that is proud, and abase him. Look on every one that is proud, and bring him low, and tread down the wicked in their place. Hide them in the dust together, and bind their faces in secret. Then will I also confess unto thee that thine own right hand can save thee. Behold now, Behemoth, which I made with thee. He eateth grass as an ox. Lo now, his strength is in his loins, and his force is in the navel of his belly. He moveth his tail like a cedar, the sinews of his stones are wrapped together. His bones are as strong pieces of brass, his bones are like bars of iron. He is the chief of the ways of God. He that made him can make his sword to approach unto him. Surely the mountains bring him forth food, where all the beasts of the field play. He lieth under the shady trees in the covert of the reed and fens. The shady trees cover him with their shadow, the willows of the brook compass him about. Behold, he drinketh up a river, and hasteth not. He trusteth that he can draw up Jordan into his mouth. He taketh it with his eyes, his nose pierceth through snares. Canst thou draw out Leviathan with an hook, or his tongue with a cord which thou lettest down? Canst thou put an hook into his nose, or bore his jaw through with a thorn? Will he make many supplications unto thee? Will he speak soft words unto thee? Will he make a covenant with thee? Wilt thou take him for a servant forever? Wilt thou play with him as with a bird, or wilt thou bind him for thy maidens? Shall the companions make a banquet of him? Shall they part him among the merchants? Canst thou fill his skin with barbed irons, or his head with fish spears? Lay thine hand upon him. Remember the battle, do no more. Behold, the hope of him is in vain. Shall not one he cast down, even at the sight of him? None is so fierce that dare stir him up. Who then is able to stand before me? Who hath prevented me, that I should repay him? Whatsoever is under the whole heaven is mine. I will not conceal his parts, nor his power, nor his comely proportion. Who can discover the face of his garment, or who can come to him with his double bridle? Who can open the doors of his face? His teeth are terrible round about. His scales are his pride, shut up together as with a closed seal. One is so near to another that no air can come between them. They are joined one to another, they stick together, that they cannot be sundered. By his neesings a light doth shine, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. Out of his mouth go burning lamps, and sparks of fire leap out. Out of his nostrils goeth smoke, as out of a seething pot or cauldron. His breath kindleth coals, and a flame goeth out of his mouth. In his neck remaineth strength, and sorrow is turned into joy before him. The flakes of his flesh are joined together, they are firm in themselves, they cannot be moved. His heart is as firm as a stone, yea, as hard as a piece of the nether millstone. When he raiseth up himself, the mighty are afraid. By reason of breakings they purify themselves. The sword of him that layeth at him cannot hold the spear. The sword of him that layeth at him cannot hold the spear, the dart, nor the habergeon. He esteemeth iron as straw, and brass as rotten wood. The arrow cannot make him flee. Sling stones are turned with him into stubble. Darts are counted as stubble. He laugheth at the shaking of a spear. Sharp stones are under him. He spreadeth sharp pointed things upon the mire. He maketh the deep to boil like a pot. He maketh the sea like a pot of ointment. He maketh a path to shine after him. One would think the deep to be hoary. Upon earth there is not his like, who is made without fear. He beholdeth all high things. He is a king over all the children of pride. Then Job answered the Lord and said, I know that thou canst do everything, and that no thought can be withholden from thee. Who is he that hideth counsel without knowledge? Therefore have I uttered that I understood not, things too wonderful for me, which I knew not. Hear, I beseech thee, and I will speak. I will demand of thee, and declare thou unto me. I have heard of thee by the hearing of the ear, but now mine eye seeth thee. Wherefore I abhor myself, and repent in dust and ashes. Regardless of what happens, if this country has a slow death or if we are entering an age of prosperity, I don't think so. I think the enemy has the economy hostage. That's what I think anyway. That's no matter what happens, you read this, and I feel like I don't have to prove anything. I think God has made himself known, and if we are approaching hard times in this country, good times, bad times, I don't know, but I make one last call, and I'll continue to call. Maybe it won't be my last call, but I beg you, whoever you are, family member, friend, if God is returning soon, if Christ is coming back soon, either now or maybe when I'm an old man, I don't know, but no man knoweth the day or the hour, and I just ask you to acknowledge him. Just acknowledge him. You don't have to acknowledge him for my sake or for anybody else's sake. Do it for yourself, because these words here that I have read, it all speaks of him, and it speaks of truth, and it speaks of his existence is something so obvious that it takes a willful blindness to disregard his existence. And I know you know he exists. You just hate him for something that happened to you. And it's horrible what happened to you. It's not acceptable what happened to you. But he is there, and he can fix, or he can restore what you lost, what was taken from you. So, regardless of what happens now, please go to Romans 10:9 and acknowledge him and really believe. Let's go there now and just repeat it and make sure that you understand it. Because if this does go bad, which it may, like I said, I think the economy is held hostage, so things can break down in so many ways. Not to be a fearmonger, but things are strange. Romans 10:9. This is all you have to do to acknowledge everything that I just said in Job. And it's something that you know it. Maybe not on a conscious level, but on a subconscious level, you know it to be true. That if thou shalt confess with thy mouth the Lord Jesus, and shalt believe in thine heart that God hath raised him from the dead, thou shalt be saved. For with the heart man believeth unto righteousness, and with the mouth confession is made unto salvation.